The wind whispered across the valley as the sun sank behind the distant mountains, casting long shadows over the sleepy town of Red Pines. It was the kind of place where nothing ever changed, and people liked it that way. But one man in that quiet town had begun to feel something was wrong. Even if he could not explain why, Aaron Blake lived alone in a wooden cabin at the edge of the forest. Far from the main road, he was a former satellite technician. Once praised for his skills, but after a personal tragedy, he had walked away from everything. Now, his days were simple, filled with books, hot tea, and the silence of nature. But recently, the silence had begun to feel different. The birds no longer chirped in the mornings. His old radio picked up strange whispers when tuned between stations. Lights in the sky moved in patterns that made no sense. He had told himself it was just his mind playing tricks on him. Maybe he had spent too much time alone. One night, Aaron woke up suddenly, his heart racing. He had dreamt of a child glowing with soft blue light. Standing in the forest, the child had spoken without moving her lips, saying only 2 words. "Help us." The dream felt too real, too sharp. He shook his head, got out of bed, and went to the window. The night was quiet, stars shining above. But then he saw a streak of silver moving slowly across the sky. It wasn't a plane, not a satellite. It stopped mid-air, hovered for a moment, then disappeared. Aaron stepped back, confused and slightly afraid. Something was happening. And he was no longer sure he could ignore it. The next morning, Aaron walked into town. He mentioned the lights in the sky to a shopkeeper. The man laughed and said it was probably a drone or military testing. Everyone seemed ready to explain it away. But Aaron felt it deep inside. This was something different over the next few weeks. The signs grew stronger. The forest animals began to act strange. Deer came too close to the cabin. Foxes stared at him as if trying to speak. His dreams returned to ways the same child. Always whispering, always asking for help. Aaron began writing down what he saw and heard. He even tried to contact old friends from his satellite days, asking if they had seen unusual signals. Most ignored him. Some said he needed rest, but one old colleague replied, "Stay off the grid if you've seen them." Them, Aaron thought. Who is them? That night. The air felt heavy, as if the wind itself was holding its breath. The sky was cloudless, but there was no moonlight. The trees stood still, no rustling leaves. Even the insects were silent. Aaron sat by his fireplace, staring into the flames. When it happened, 3 sharp knocks on the door. He froze. No one ever came to his cabin uninvited. Not this late. He waited. Silence returned. Slowly, he walked to the door and opened it. No one was there. He stepped outside, looked around, nothing but trees and shadows. He was about to turn back when he saw it. On the ground in front of his door was a small object glowing with soft green light. It was shaped like a teardrop. Smooth like glass, but it pulsed as if alive. Aaron picked it up carefully. It was warm to the touch, and as he held it, a wave of emotion flooded his mind. Fear, sadness, desperation, and something else. Hope. Stumbled back inside, shut the door, and sat down, clutching the object. The glow brightened for a moment, and then he saw her. Not in front of him, but in his mind, a woman, not human tall, silver-skinned. Eyes full of sorrow. Behind her, the same glowing child from his dreams. They stood in a world of fire and darkness. Her voice echoed in his head. "You are the last door we can knock." Aaron dropped the object. Gasping for breath, his hands shook, his heart pounded. He had spent years avoiding the world, building walls no one could climb. But now, something or someone had found him, and it was just the beginning. For 2 long years, Alara had traveled through the cold and endless dark of space, searching for one voice strong enough to hear her. She had crossed dead star fields, ancient war zones, and fractured planets, leaving behind everything she once loved. Her homeworld Alindra had fallen to a violent empire, and she had escaped only because she carried something more precious than her own life. Her child Alara had once been a respected guardian of her people, a protector, a leader, and a mother. Her ship, now broken and scarred, drifted through the quiet regions near Earth. Her child Loom slept inside a fragile cryo-cradle, glowing with fading light. Alara watched the cradle every hour, fearing the moment the glow might not return. She whispered old songs, hoping Loom could hear them even in sleep. She had sent signals to Earth for months, then years, repeating the same message again and again. A simple request, a simple cry for help. Her language was gentle, her tone full of hope. But humanity never answered, or maybe they never truly heard. But Alara knew they had heard something. She had seen Earth's satellites shift direction. She had traced coded beams returning to space. She had watched as military craft circled the sky on nights her signals were strongest. There was no doubt the humans had detected her presence. They simply chose not to respond at first. She believed it was fear. Later, she thought it might be indifference. In the end, she feared it was cruelty. Not everyone values life beyond their own kind. Still, Alara waited. Her ship floated above a small blue lake hidden deep in the mountain ranges of Earth. The vessel was cloaked with a thin veil of refracted light, making it appear like mist rolling across the water. Alara spent her days repairing old systems, scavenging energy from Earth's sunlight, and slowly watching hope slip through her fingers. Loom was weakening. The cryo-cradle required a rare form of energy, a resonance found only in human biology. The humans of Earth carried a unique genetic frequency, one that could stabilize Loom for many years. If only she could reach one who was willing to help. Alara remembered the father of Delara, her child, a human explorer who had once been lost in the stars. He had been brave, gentle, and curious. He had died protecting her and the child he never met. Earth had already given her something beautiful. She believed it could do so again, so she kept trying. She shaped her messages into dreams, hoping they could enter the softer minds of humans, minds that were open and wounded and searching. She reached out across the thin barrier between thought and reality, letting the image of her child speak where her voice could note. A year passed, and Earth remained silent. Second year passed, and Loom grew weaker. Then, one night while drifting half asleep against the control panel, Alara felt something shift, a small echo, a small vibration. A human mind had received her message. Not only received it, but held on to it. She saw the image clearly. A man alone in a wooden cabin in a forest. A man whose heart carried heavy shadows. A man who once built machines to speak to the sky. He had seen her dream. He had heard her whisper, "Help us." His name was Aaron Nolar. Watched him from orbit for many days, testing the strength of his spirit. She saw him wake in fear, look at the stars and pretend he felt nothing. She saw him walk through town, unsure of what he sensed. She saw him ignore the call again and again, until the pull of destiny became too strong. When she finally sent the crystal to his door, her hands trembled. Not from fear of him, but from fear of failure. If Aaron did not answer, no one else on Earth would. She flew her damaged scout vessel low through the night sky, hiding behind clouds, letting the crystal drift down through a carefully shaped beam of light. She had used the last of her power to send it. If he rejected it, she would not survive the return trip. As she watched from above, she saw him open the door. She saw his eyes widen at the glow. She felt his emotions ripple outward. Confusion, sorrow, fear, compassion, and most important of all, she felt him choose to pick it up. For the first time in 2 years, she allowed herself to breathe. He had accepted the call of N. If he did not yet understand, Eth was the one, and now everything depended on him. Aaron sat in his cabin, staring at the strange, glowing crystal resting on his table. The faint green light pulsed like a heartbeat, filling the room with a soft warmth that felt alive. He wanted to throw it away, yet somehow he could not look away. It called to him, not with sound, but with presence, as if it already knew him. Better than he knew himself, he reached out with shaking hands and touched the smooth surface. A wave of light burst through the room, not bright enough to blind, but strong enough to pull him out of his own world. The cabin around him dissolved into swirling mist, and then into something far greater. Ron stood in a vast open space that was not Earth. In front of him lay a silver horizon, stretching endlessly. A tower of light rose from the ground, twisting like a living flame. Beneath it he saw people made of shimmering energy, their faces gentle, their bodies graceful. They moved with a rhythm that felt ancient then. Everything changed. The sky darkened, the tower cracked, fire erupted across the horizon, a scream of worlds echoed without sound. Aaron watched in horror as ships of black iron descended from the clouds, firing beams of destruction on the peaceful land. The light people ran for safety, only to fade into dust. Through the chaos, one figure emerged, a tall being with silver skin, eyes glowing with deep sorrow. She carried a small cradle in her arms. The child inside flickered like a dying star. Recognized her face from his dream. Solarash walked toward him, though she was not truly there. Her form glowed softly, and her voice rose inside his mind, not spoken, but felt. You saw the dream because you were willing to see. Aaron felt a lump in his throat. He tried to speak, but no words came. Alara continued, as the world behind her burned. My home has fallen. My people have been scattered. My child's loom carries the last hope of our future, but loom cannot survive without a resonance found only in your kind. Ron felt a weight press against his heart. He had spent years running from his past, avoiding connection, refusing to feel anything that might break him again, yet this vision would not let him hide. The child in the cradle reminded him too much of his own daughter. A memory he tried every day to bury. The scene shifted again, and Aaron found himself standing inside a dim alien vessel. Sparks flew from broken wires, panels flickered weakly. Alara knelt beside the cryo cradle, gently touching the glass as the child inside breathed in faint, glowing rhythms. Reached out to your world for 2 years, Alara continued. No answer. No understanding, only silence, but your heart heard me, even if you feared it. Terran stepped closer to the cradle and pressed his hand against the vision of its surface. The glow brightened, responding to his touch. Loom needs you. Alara said, I need you. If no human helps us, there will be no more chances. The room shook, as though the ship were struck by something, but Aaron knew it was only the memory reacting to the emotions within him. The vision began to fade, but Alara reached forward quickly, placing her hand over his. There is danger around you, Aaron Blake. You must trust no human authority. They believe we are a threat. They will come for you as soon as they detect our connection. You must decide if you will stand with us or walk away. Aaron felt the weight of every moment pressing on him, the fear of being hurt again, the fear of losing someone again, the fear of stepping back into a world he had abandoned. But he also felt something else, a spark of courage, a voice inside, whispering that running had never saved him before. The last light faded. Alara spoke one final message. When my dia dumb. One final message. When Maya. One line Musa. One lie Musa. Only Ruby Kiss has the luxurious held. My lie ease. Unwime, sis. Isa salok lias. Misa salaya, sabizab sig, with my laya salish, my laya salaya. El we scare. I way to do salaya salide. It's all my lies. Sariaya, we sabais, usewas, kakaid, krakad. By we samivit, all lie. It akit sakaida aas, it's leaky to sad I lets, and six kapaya I siris is it to cut is it to cast is it be fit. You are ready. Speak into the crystal, it will answer. The vision collapsed. Aaron found himself back in his cabin, sweating, breathing hard. The crystal sat silently on the table, its glow softer now, as if waiting. Aaron sank into his chair, overwhelmed. The voices of doubt rushed through his mind. But the image of the child, the look in Alara's eyes, the devastation of her world all clung to him. He could not erase the hours past before he finally lifted the crystal again. He held it to his chest, took a trembling breath, and whispered the only words his heart could form. Tell me what I need to don't. The crystal began to glow once more. Aaron sat in his cabin long after the crystal stopped glowing. The silence around him felt heavier than ever, as if the forest itself listened for his next breath. He had never asked for this kind of burden, and yet it had chosen him without warning. Alara needed him and her child needed him, but another truth pressed at his mind. Now a truth she had whispered at the end of her vision. They will come for you. He did not know who they were, but he knew the world well enough to guess every government had secrets, every nation monitored signals from the sky. Every power feared anything it could not control. Aaron feared that somewhere out there, men in dark suits were already reviewing the strange radio spike from his cabin, planning their next move outside. The window. The night grew deeper. The trees stood still like silent sentries. Aaron paced back and forth, thinking about his lonely past and the unexpected future placed in his hands. He had shut himself away from people after losing his family, believing isolation meant safety. Now, even that sanctuary felt exposed. He approached the crystal again. Its soft green light pulsed slowly like a sleeping heartbeat. As he stared at it, he felt watched, not by Alara, but by something human, something close. He turned off the single lamp in the room and stepped to the window, pressing his face into the shadows. Two black vehicles sat on the distant dirt road. Their engines were quiet, but their presence was loud in the darkness. Their windows reflected no light, and the figures inside did not move. He felt ice stab through his chest. They had found him faster than he imagined her. Backed away from the window, heart pounding, he had no plan, no idea how to hide something that glowed like a living star. He wrapped the crystal in an old cloth and placed it inside a metal box. Then he shoved the box under the loose floorboard near his bed. He could only hope metal would hide its energy long enough. A sharp knock echoed through the cabin door. Aaron froze. He thought of pretending not to be home, but another louder knock shattered that hope. The voice that followed was firm, calm, and practiced. "Mr. Blake, we need to speak with you." Aaron opened the door slowly. Four agents stood there, wearing dark suits and carrying no visible weapons, but their presence radiated authority. The oldest stepped forward. He had a controlled smile that did not reach his eyes. "We received unusual atmospheric data from this region," he said. "We need to ensure there is no threat to national security." Aaron forced a steady breath and tried to look surprised. He said he had not seen anything strange. The agents scanned the room with their eyes, taking in every corner, every shadow. Their movements were smooth, almost inhuman in precision. One of them stepped toward the radio equipment on the table. She touched the dials gently, as if she already knew what she expected to find. Her gaze sharpened for a moment, then softened again. "You live far from town," she said. "That must be very peaceful." Aaron nodded, but remained silent. Every instinct screamed inside him to stay calm. He knew if he said too much or too little, they would sense it. People like this could smell fear the way wolves sensed weakness. The older agent stepped closer, lowering his voice. "We detected a foreign energy signature earlier tonight. Something not from Earth. We believe it may have originated near this property. We are hoping you can help us understand." Aaron felt his throat tighten. He wanted to deny everything, but Alara's warning rang in his mind. "Trust no human authority." "Do not know what you are talking about," he said slowly. "I have no special equipment here, just old radios that barely work." The agents looked at one another, not convinced, but not fully certain either. After a long moment, the leader nodded. "We'll monitor this area for a while," he said. "If you see or hear anything unusual, please contact us immediately." Stepped outside, though Aaron sensed they had not truly left. Through the window, he saw them walk to their vehicles, but they did not drive away. Instead, they waited, watching the cabin with silent engines and dark windows. Aaron closed the door and leaned against it, shaking. He hurried to the floorboard, lifted it, and took out the crystal. It glowed softly, as if sensing his fear. "What do I do now?" he whispered. The crystal responded with a faint rise in its light, forming a small symbol in the air, one that felt like a message. "They are close. We must move." Run held the crystal tight as the forest outside seemed to close in around him. The agents waited. The night, deepened in danger, now sat only a few heartbeats away. The first step of his journey had already crossed the point of no return. The night pressed hard against the cabin walls as Aaron slipped the crystal into his jacket and moved toward the back door. He could feel the presence of the agents outside their silent engines, waiting like hungry shadows. He knew staying meant capture and losing. The only chance. Alara and her child had a soft vibration pulsed from the crystal, guiding him toward the forest. The trees stood tall and dark, their branches forming a tunnel of shifting shapes. Aaron stepped into the woods carefully, each sound echoing in his nerves. Behind him, he heard the distant crunch of boots. Agents had left their vehicles. They were coming. The crystal brightened, showing a faint trail like a ribbon of floating light. Aaron followed it deeper into the forest. The air changed, growing warmer, filled with a gentle hum. As he reached a clearing, he saw something rise from the shadows. Vessel shaped like a silver leaf hovered above the earth. Light shimmered around it, bending gently like soft waves. The sight froze Aaron in place. He knew this was not another vision. This was relay. Hatch opened, and a tall figure stepped out. Her steps were unsteady, her posture tired, yet there was strength in her presence. Her silver skin reflected the moonlight. Her eyes carried the depth of distant star. Solara. For a moment, neither moved. Aaron stared at her, unable to speak. She was exactly as the crystal had shown, yet seeing her in the living world made his breath catch. Kalara lifted her hand, slowly, not in threat but in greeting. Her voice echoed into his mind, though her lips never moved. "Do came Aaron Blake." Aaron swallowed hard. He felt fear, awe, and something softer rising inside him. "I did not know if you were real," he said, "or if I was losing myself." "You saw the truth," she answered. "You felt the call. Only those with open hearts can hear it." Before Aaron could speak again, the hatch behind Alara opened wider, revealing a small cradle glowing in blue light. The child loom lay inside, their breathing faint, their light dimming. With every passing moment, Alara moved aside, letting Aaron see more clearly. "The resonance within the child is fading," Alara said. "They cannot survive without what your world provides." Ron stepped closer, drawn by the fragile glow. The child looked peaceful yet painfully weak. His chest tightened, the memory of his own daughter flickering across his thoughts. "Do you need for me?" he whispered. Alara approached him, placing a hand gently on the cradle. The warmth radiating from her touch shimmered. "In the cold night, loom needs a human life signal," she said. "A harmonic energy that only your kind carries. You do not need to sacrifice anything. Only lend your presence, your strength, your frequency. The cradle will draw what it needs." Saren hesitated. He had spent years hiding from the world and from every wound inside him, yet this moment demanded the opposite. He reached out slowly, placing his hand on the cradle. A soft wave of light rippled around them. Loom responded. Breathing a little deeper, the glow grew stronger. For a moment, Alara watched him with quiet gratitude. "You are stronger than you believe." Aaron Blake. Before he could answer, a sharp rustle cut through the clearing. Aaron turned, quickly spotting dark shapes between the trees. The agents had followed faster than he hoped. Their voices whispered commands, their boots shifted into position. The glint of equipment shined briefly beneath the branches. Alara stepped forward, her body shielding the cradle, her eyes sharpened with protective fire. "They have tracked me for 2 years, she said. "They do not seek understanding, they seek control. You must choose now, Aaron Blake. Stand with us, or..." Surrender us to them. Marin felt the weight of the moment press against his heart. He looked toward the shadows, then toward Alara, then toward the fragile child who needed him. The crystal inside his jacket vibrated softly, as if urging him to remember why he came. He took a breath and stood between Alara and the approaching agents, his hands steady for the first time in years. "We will not let them take you," he said. Alara placed a hand on his shoulder. The connection between them flared with shared resolve. "Then we move together," she said. The forest trembled as the agents broke through the trees, their flashlights cut across the clearing. Their voices echoed with authority, but Aaron and Alara were already stepping back into the light of the vessel, ready to face whatever came next. The first contact had been made, and now the real battle was beginning. The forest exploded with shouts as the agents stepped into the clearing. Their boots crushed fallen leaves, their flashlights swept across the ground like hungry blades of light. Aaron felt his pulse hammering, but he did not move. He stood between Alara and the advancing figures, his breath steady, his purpose clear. For the first time in many years, the agents raised small scanning devices. Shaped like metal rods, they glowed red when pointed at Alara, and at the cradle behind her, one of the agents spoke, his voice sharp and practiced. "We know what you are," he said. "Surrender now, and no force will be used." Lara stepped forward, her silver skin reflecting the beams of their lights. She had no weapon, yet her presence carried strength deeper than any armor. "I have harmed no one," she said. "I come only seeking help." The lead agent narrowed his eyes. "Help is not the concern. National safety is the energy you emit is unstable. The child you carry may be more dangerous than you understand." La held the cradle close, a quiet ache in her eyes. "You speak of danger without knowledge," she answered. "You see only what your fear shows." Euron stepped in front of her, anger rising in his voice. "You do not even know what they want," he said. "You only assume threat because you cannot control them." The agents ignored his words, their focus locked on Alara. Their scanners buzzed louder, as if reacting to something unseen. A soldier near the back spoke quietly to the leader. "Her energy signature matches the anomaly from 2 years ago," he whispered, "and the smaller one carries a hybrid frequency." Aaron caught the words hybrid, his heart clenched as he turned to Alarawat. "Does that mean?" he asked, though part of him already sensed the truth. Alara looked at him, her eyes deep with memory and sorrow. She touched the edge of the cradle, and her voice softened inside his mind. "To cycles before the fall of my world, I met a human explorer. She said he was brave and open, and he chose kindness in places filled with fear. He saved my life, and I saved his, and in the time we shared, a bond was formed, a bond that created." Lumarin felt the world tilt. The child was half human, half Alindran, a living bridge between two species. The agents heard every word. Their scanners beeped wildly, confirming what they already suspected. The leader raised his device higher, his voice growing more cold. "That child cannot be allowed to leave this area," he said. "It contains unknown DNA. It could be a weapon. It could be an infection. It could destabilize biological systems across the planet." Tylara stepped forward with fire in her voice. "Loom is not a weapon. Loom is life. Loom is hope." Heron stood beside her, refusing to move. He glared at the agents. "You are not listening," he said. "You only fear what you cannot understand." The leader ordered his team to form a perimeter. They spread out, surrounding the clearing. Their hands hovered near restraints and energy dampeners. Aaron knew that once those devices activated, Lara would collapse, and Loom would not survive. Lara placed a hand on Aaron's arm, her touch steady, her eyes calm. "They do what they believe is right," she said, "but they do not see the truth. The hybrid resonance is not a threat. It is a cure for a plague that is coming to both our worlds, a sickness that already grows in distant regions. You saw my world burn because we discovered it too. Late Earth still has time if Loom survives." Stared at her, stunned. "You never told me this," he whispered. "You whispered. I feared it would push you away," she answered, "and time has grown thin." The agents moved closer. their lights bright enough to erase the shadows. A soldier reached for the cradle. No hesitation, no kindness. Alara stepped back, clutching Loom tightly. "Do not touch my child," she warned the soldier. Ignored her and reached Aganeron. Snapped, he lunged forward, pushing the man aside. The soldier stumbled, and the clearing erupted with tension. The leader raised his hand, signaling the others to prepare restraints. Eren shouted over the noise, "Stop, listen to her. She is trying to save us all." The agents paused, only slightly torn between orders and uncertainty. The crystal in Eren's jacket vibrated and glowed through the fabric, as if responding to the rising danger. Lara looked at Eren with something like pride. "You chose your path," she said, "and I will not let your courage be wasted." Light burst from the cradle, forming a shield around them. The agent staggered back, blinded for a moment. Alara reached out and pulled Eren closer, holding him within the protective glow. "We must escape," she said. "If they capture Loom, both our worlds will fall." The forest trembled with sound as the agents regained their footing. Eren held the cradle and felt its warmth pulse against his hands. Alara activated a control on her wrist, and her vessel responded, opening its hatch with silent readiness. Or new turning back was no longer possible. Together, they ran toward the rising light. And the truth that had been hidden for 2 years was now the spark that could ignite war or salvation. The clearing shook with rising chaos as Eren and Alara sprinted toward the silver vessel. The air pulsed with bright ripples from the child's protective energy. Agents shouted orders, stumbling through bending light that distorted their movements. The forest seemed to breathe around them, as if urging them to move faster. Alara reached the vessel first, sliding her hand across its surface. The hole responded like living metal, opening to reveal a warm interior filled with soft blue light. Eren followed, carrying the cradle close to his chest. The child inside shimmered with faint life, each pulse of their glow slower than the last. "We do not have much time," Alara said. Her voice trembled with urgency and fear, yet her eyes carried the same strength that had carried her across galaxies. "Set the cradle onto a cradle bay inside the ship." The vessel hummed in response, feeding energy into the chamber. But even the ship struggled. Loom was dangerously weak. Alara activated the inner controls. Her fingers moved quickly across luminous panels. The engines began to warm, the floor vibrating gently beneath their feet. Outside, the agents recovered, forming lines around the vessel. Their weapons were not raised, but their stance made their intent. Claron looked at Alara. "What happens if they fire?" he asked the vessel. "We'll hold for a short while," she answered, "but their weapons will disrupt the resonance. Loom cannot survive another shock unless we are airborne." The hatch began to close, but before it sealed, Eren saw the lead agent step forward. He lifted one hand, signaling for the others to hold. Their faces were tense, confused, uncertain. He spoke loudly, his voice carrying through the clearing. "We do not want to destroy you," he said. "Surrender the child, and we will not harm you." Alara met his gaze with calm sorrow. "You speak as if my child is a danger," she answered. "But it is your fear that threatens your world, not Loom." The agent shook his head, refusing her words. "All unknown life is a risk," he said. "Until we understand it, we cannot let it roam." Friarn stepped to the edge of the hatch and shouted, "You are letting fear decide instead of truth. Loom is the cure for something you do not even know is coming." The agent looked shaken for a moment, but duty hardened his posture again. He raised a small device, and the teams lifted their dampener. Sala grabbed Eren and pulled him inside. The hatch sealed and energy shields activated. The vessel glowed brighter, pushing back the incoming wave of dampener pulses. The ship rattled but did not fail. Inside, Loom gasped, their glow flickering. Eren knelt beside the cradle, his heart twisting. "Stay with us," he whispered. "You have to hold on." Alara placed her hands over the cradle. Her voice filled the chamber like warm wind. "And Blake, lend your strength again." Loom responds to the human resonance within you. Eren closed his eyes, pressing his palms gently against the cradle. A soft warmth flowed through him, not painful, but strangely soothing. It felt like someone was drawing light from a deep place inside him. A place he thought had died with his daughter. The cradle brightened looms, breathing steadied. Alara looked at him with gratitude and something like quiet wonder. "You carry more light than you believe," she said. The vessel engines roared, lifting them. Slowly off the ground, outside the agents fired pulsing waves of energy, but the shields held. The ship climbed above the trees, rising into open sky.